on the plan I had, but I believe they would agree to do that.
Yes, we agreed to do that.
Okay. Then with regards to the architectural plans, again, just to recapture to make sure we didn't miss anything. The changes that have been made to the building facade, the precast concrete panels, on the Chipotle store, the metal cap and canopy added on the roof, the thin brick veneer added for suites B and C, which are units for rent that haven't been determined who the tenant's going to be yet, and the stone water table treatment added for suites B and C. And again, I think Mr. Dykstra just advised that they were going to do that. Item B, the colors of the precast concrete panels, brick and trim/cap to be specified. As Mr. Dykstra showed on the architectural plans, those precast panels are basically I call it a concrete color, if you will. I think the key thing that he mentioned that's important to note is that they're matching the color of the Starbucks across the street, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, as the brick is also. And basically, he talked about the stone water table treatment with the exception of where the concrete panels are. That was added. Item C, I note that some of the I note the areas of suites A, B, and C shown on the architectural plans differ slightly from the areas shown on sheet 3 of the site plan. The area discrepancy to be resolved. I just wanted to make sure that was talking to each other so that the plans were consistent.
Yeah, we'll correct the architecturals. They had just included the common area walls, and they just measured the area differently.
Okay. And I don't recall, item D, the location of the HVAC units for all 3 suites to be shown and how they would be screened. My recollection is, but I wasn't sure of this, they're going to be roof mounted?
They're roof mounted, and you won't be able to see them from the ground level.
Okay. Then with regards to stormwater management, 5A, general note number 5 on sheet 1 indicates all storm sewer pipes shall be class 3 reinforced concrete culvert pipe. I point out, however, that the plans sheets call for high-density polyethylene pipe. I don't have a problem with that. My assumption is, and just to make sure we're all on the same page, you're talking HDPE pipe?
Most likely, yes.
Okay, that's fine, just to make sure the record's clear what we're doing. Item 5B, calculations were not provided for the proposed roof drains tying into the storm drainage system. The capacity of these pipes to be confirmed with the construction official and the leader drains to be shown on the plans. I don't have a problem with that. I just want to verify that with the roof drainage, that's calculated and anticipated to be at the right slope and the right size.
No problem.
Okay. And item C, the stormwater operation and maintenance manual to be provided or reference provided to a previously recorded manual for the overall development, which includes the lot the proposed building J is located on. When this whole general North Village development was conceived, there was a lot of storm drainage to get the overall basins put together. The operation and maintenance manual, since this particular site drains into some of those basins, may already be filed and covered, but in the event it's not, we either need a reference to that recorded document or a document for this particular site.
Agreed.
Okay. Number 6, under the lighting plan, details of the light fixtures being used on the proposed building to be provided. My recollection is from the original hearing and what we discussed at the meeting was it was going to be a downward facing fixture. So if we could put that detail on the plan, that would take care of that.
No problem.
Under number 7, the water system. The limits of the water mains to be owned and maintained by Sparta Township Water Utility to be established in consultation with the water utility, including location of the curb box for the water service. Again, I know a report was provided by Corey Long, the utilities director for the township. This can be done. It's an important thing just to establish, however, because normally the curb box is the delineation point between what's to be maintained by the utility and what's to be maintained by the property and building owner. So I would recommend that any approval that the board may consider, that be a condition to get that worked out.
No problem.
And number 7B, confirmation of the adequacy of flow and pressure for the proposed building J to be provided for review and approval by the township water utility. Given the proximity to the Germany Flats area and the pressure produced by the pump, I'm not anticipating a problem, but again, it's one of those things to be verified for all parties intended. Number 8, sanitary sewer. they're tying into the existing sanitary sewer main in Market Street. And 8B, the size and adequacy of the sewer lateral to be confirmed with the township construction official and the health department. Again, just getting down into the nuts and bolts, if you will, of the particular system, because this is a restaurant and basically they're probably going to have a grease trap and other requirements that the health department will want to make sure everybody in all departments are satisfied. Under number 9, signage, the freestanding and monument entrance signs for the access points off Route 15 were previously approved by the planning board under site plan application number 614. That's just a point of information because my recollection is for overall North Village, they actually got that freestanding sign approved as one of their main items right from the get-go.
Yes.
Under item 9B, facade signs are graphically shown on the front elevations of each of the proposed retail units. However, no details or lighting arrangements are provided for each sign. The notes indicate the band signs will be 3 feet by less than 90% of the facade width. And I guess, again, what I believe the applicant is trying to convey here is when they know what those particular tenants are or who those particular tenants are, that they'll comply with the ordinance for the signage.
Correct.
Item 9C, the proposed Chipotle sign is called out to be backlit. And I believe on the architectural plans that were submitted tonight, basically it's a box-type sign that's internally lit.
Yeah, the same as the Starbucks across the street.
Okay. Indeed, the architectural elevation from North Village Boulevard appears to show 3 Chipotle logo decals on the entrance doors. I just point that out. Item number 10, with regards to landscaping, we quote section 18-5.302A of the Land Management Code. Any parking lot with 20 or more spaces shall be provided with interior landscape covering not less than 5% of the total area of the parking lot, of which the primary landscaping material shall be deciduous shade trees. Interior parking lot landscaping has not been provided. They have provided some landscaping. I don't know if Mr. Dykstra has that on his display or not, if he could point some of that out.
Yeah, the intent of that ordinance is when you have a large-scale parking lot. In this case, there's really no interior to the parking lot, as there's no cars nosing up to one another. But in this case, we do have extensive landscaping around the perimeter of the site. We have all these islands and peninsulas that are all landscaped, so the intent is there.
In item 10B, shade trees have been added in the area of the basin. It's recommended to replace proposed smaller trees around the parking lot with shade trees to provide shade and minimize heat island effect. If you'll recall, if you look at the infiltration basins, for example, in front of Industry Restaurant, they did do extensive landscaping in the basin between Industry and Route 15. And I believe on the revised landscaping plan on this, you basically simulated that.
That's correct.
Okay.
So for my notes, Dave, that's done then?
It's on the plans, yes.
Yes. And item 10C, per section 18-5.303B, the applicant must provide a 10-foot wide landscape buffer between the parking lot and the right-of-way of a street with a mixture of shrubs and trees as prescribed in the code. A shrub planting 10 feet wide needs to be provided between the parking lot and Market Street. The existing buffer between the parking lot and North Village Boulevard will need to be augmented with additional plantings. I do know that Mr. Dykstra had indicated that along North Village Boulevard, there are some existing trees. Perhaps he can point them out, please.
I can go to the landscape sheet, which is... It's sheet 5 of 6 of the plans. And the last time we were here, we did request a waiver for the 10-foot wide, just because we wanted visibility of the building from that facade. And we put extensive landscaping along the front. And then we have street trees that are physically there. And then we put shrubs in between them, so.
Lower lying shrubs.
Yeah.
So I want the board to be aware of that waiver that they're requesting. Then going on to construction details, again, as Mr. Dykstra pointed out, they have made some modifications to the outside dining area and buffered and augmented that. The only thing I requested was there's going to be some outside exterior dining tables and chairs, again, just so we have some details on the plans to show what you're doing.
The layout of the chairs are on the site layout sheet, and it shows 16 seats.
Right, but I'm looking for an actual construction detail of the units you're putting in. The wrought iron chairs, whatever they might be.
Yeah, Chipotle has their standards, and they vary based on time, so we can get you the latest one, and we'll submit them.
That's what we need. Okay. And as far as an environmental impact statement, they did not submit anything in addition for this particular application. I believe the Environmental Commission did ask about the lighting on the site, though, and as Mr. Dykstra mentioned just a little bit ago, the light fixtures are proposed to be downward-facing fixtures.
That's correct.
Okay.
They're also at 4,000, not 3,500 that the
Kelvin?
Environmental Commission prefers, but that's to match the rest of the site.
Okay.
And I think the Environmental Commission asked about when they get turned off or dimmed. Is there some, overall consistent way North Village does that? And what will be the case here?
In North Village, we dim the overhead lights based on what facilities are open, and all of them are controlled by each individual head, and we bring them down to 50% when everything's closed.
And
So
I'm sorry.
basically within what, an hour of closing of something like that?
Correct.
In item 13, I just basically summarized the various agencies I believe they need approval from: the Sparta Township Water Utility, the Fire Protection Bureau, and Tom McIntyre, the fire marshal, did issue an email dated September 12, 2023 on the previous application. The County Planning Board, Delaware Conservation District, land disturbance permit, COA payments, the construction official for Sparta Township, and the police department. And finally, miscellaneous, as we usually recommend, that the applicant provide an as-built upon completion of the project if the board decides to approve it. And that's a summary of my report on this, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Simmons.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Smart?
Thank you. Just a few questions that were in my memo. There was, pretty much, I'd say like 4 major changes to the site plan that I saw it as: the change to the impervious coverage, the change to the front yard setback, the change to the outdoor dining area, and the landscaped area in the front of on Route 15. Mr. Dykstra, as far as the increase in impervious coverage is like approximately 3.5% or so increase, what is that largely related to? What change to the site plan triggered that increase?
I believe we widened the service driveway in order to provide access for emergency vehicles. So,
Is it also the configuration off of Market change from the previous plan?
no, I don't think so.
Okay. And I mean, there were a few additional parking spaces as well, I think. There was probably 2.
Oh, from the original.
From the original site plan, I'm sorry.
We came in on the second hearing, all those changes. This is identical to the second hearing.
Okay, good. Thank you. As far as the landscaping plan, I know that the previous plan had included some landscape plantings at the back of the building, like at the service entrance at the back for employees.
Yes.
I don't see those there now, or I don't see plantings at the back of the rear of the building.
We have them along the,
Oh, no, I'm talking, there was like some shrubs planted pretty much adjacent to the building in that island area between the service, so on the right of the service driveway.
right here.
Yeah, back there, and then a little bit further
we-
north.
We have a lot of utilities running through there. We could put some small shrubs.
That's what I think was there in the past, so I think that would help soften that back of the building and help complement that water table and design
Okay.
a little bit better. I mentioned in my memo that the landscape plan was bolstered significantly, particularly along Route 15. Can you just describe if, I know there's a note that says existing trees and shrubs in this area to remain. Are the plantings that are shown there largely, mostly the shrubs, are they mostly new or proposed?
Yeah, that area is pretty sparsely landscaped currently.
Okay, thank you. And then the setback along Route 15 was increased to basically meet the setback requirement. And this was in the second plan, site plan?
Yes.
Yep, so the building complies now. with the setback, or if it has complied with it, but it's continuing to. I only had one other comment, and it's basically two comments about confirming some of the previous things that the applicant agreed to, which was one, that the outdoor dining conditions will be complied with in order to make it a permitted use.
Yes.
And then there was commentary at the previous hearing on the previous decision on the application about the pedestrian connections being painted with like multiple coats of some thermoplastic paint or something that will basically make it without having to be a raised crosswalk or anything like that. Will you confirm that will continue?
Yeah, we agreed to that.
Thank you. I have no other comments this time. Thank you.
For my notes, asked about impervious coverage being increased and things like that, but we don't have a variance for that. Or
No, they're still in compliance. I was just curious about the change from the original.
my notes indicate there's no variances at all, correct?
I believe there are only the waivers that Mr. Simmons had raised. Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll bring it back to the dais. Justin, I'm going to start with you again, if I could. Okay.
Mentioned everything that the EC had commented on.
Christine, can you speak into the microphone?
Yeah, the EC appreciates your comments and you're addressing the issues that it referred to.
Thank you.
No comments.
You mentioned that the rest of North Village, they reduced their lights by 50% when businesses are closed. I think because of the proximity to some residential areas, with this particular lot, would you consider reducing it further?
We could probably turn the lights off that are along like Market, that side.
I think that'd be great.
That wouldn't be a problem.
Is there particular hours of operation for that service road? Do you expect, like, it to be predominantly in the morning or throughout the day, to be determined?
Typically, the service vehicle we anticipate is Chipotle's delivery vehicle. They typically come early in the morning, not early like at night, but like between 10 and 11 a.m. before they open, because they have people working at that hour that they can take delivery. So that's typically when you'd see that. And then the garbage truck.
Without knowing the two other tenants, do you expect that they would also use the service road?
It's unlikely that, they may have a truck here and there, but they're not big spaces. They're typically small type vehicles that deliver to those type facilities.
Thank you.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Bulmeni?
Yep, I have several questions. First, I'd like to start with the access easement. I know Mr. Simmons already addressed part of it, but I would like to ask you to explain and testify in detail your understanding of that access easement and its appropriateness for daily use as a service entrance.
I can explain. When this lot was created, it was a re-subdivision of the two lots at the corner. As part of that, the access easement from that entrance allows access through Chelsea into this facility, and it doesn't have any limitations on it.
Okay, so it can be used for daily use?
Yes.
Okay. And you'll provide the easement as a condition, as a follow-up, right?
Of course.
Yeah, okay. The second question, just wanted to confirm, the outdoor seating area, the patio that was redesigned, can you just describe the protection and the fencing around that in this new version?
Sure. As you can see now, we used to have the fence immediately adjacent to the curb. By eliminating a parking stall, it allowed us to put a green area around it. We also provided bollards along the easterly side southeasterly side of it. So anybody backing out of here would hit them before they went onto that area.
So there was no fence, just vegetation? Is that the plan?
No, there's fence around the actual seating area. It's just between the fence and the curb is now landscaped.
Okay, okay. What is the fence, what style fence? What was the appearance of it?
Similar to the one at Starbucks. It's an aluminum industrial grade fence.
Okay. Switching to the roof, the HVAC and the mechanical equipment, I know you testified that you can't see it from the ground. However, I just wanted to confirm, in the past hearing, there was an agreement to have the color of it match the roof color because there are residents in the Chelsea facility and elsewhere that might look down and see the equipment. So it's great that you can't see it from the ground, but others may still see it as part of their daily life.
I mean, it'll be a similar color. I can't say it'll match exactly. The roofs typically are white. The on-roof equipment is typically a tan, but it'll be in that vein. I mean, I don't think you could buy like the units in specific colors.
Is there an alternative or a way to shield that from the residents of the Chelsea unit, the Chelsea building?
If you're in the upper level of Chelsea, there's no way you're going to shield that from view. I mean, it's a 3-story building looking down at a 1-story building.
Okay. The parking spaces, can you confirm that the calculations, that the latest or the new calculations include the outdoor seating?
It does.
Okay. I also saw in the reports that there were spaces designated for online pickup orders and for pull forward for drive-through.
That's
Two
correct.
different versions. Can you differentiate those for us?
So if you order online and you're going to walk in to get your food, you would pull into one of those spaces and run inside, grab your food. And so it's a quick in and out. So you don't have to park at the other side of the parking lot. The other ones is if you come through the drive-through and you order 12 things and you would back things up, they'll ask you to go to the pull-through and then they'll walk the food out to you.
Okay, so they're both for ordering online, it's just that in one case, the vehicles are going to go to the drive-through and pick it up. In the other case, the customer wants to go park and come to the counter?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. And can you describe the solid waste storage area that's, I'm really concerned or thinking about the one that's closest to North Village and Route 15, that front northwest or,
This one?
yeah, southwest corner. I'm not sure what corner that is. Can you describe the fencing and vegetation that will block that view from the public?
Yeah, we'll go back to the landscape plan. We put a lot of like spruce type trees around it. And then we utilize I don't know if at North Village, we try to make them nice looking. You know, we use high-end enclosures. So it's kind of disappears in that space is the goal. You know, we have the ones right in front of between Starbucks and industry, and they kind of blend in. You know, they match. They feel like they belong there. It doesn't feel like it's just an eyesore. So we try to keep that way here as well, and tucking them in so they back into the street. It looks like a fence from the back. So that's what you'll see.
Okay. So it shouldn't be visible from cars on North Village or on 15?
You might see like a glance of it, but it will definitely be broken up line of sight.
Okay. I knew you described that the new design, the new building materials would match Starbucks. Can you just state, I don't go to Starbucks. So can you tell me the color of the veneer, the water table, and the concrete panels?
I did bring an exhibit. Maybe I'll just, so then you'll kind of have something in your file that shows the colors.
Why don't we mark that? I think we're up to W4, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Picture of the existing Starbucks.
Yeah, it's existing Starbucks. I have a couple of those.
Thank you.
3, 4, or 5. I think it's 5.
As you can see, we have the brick color, and this is a direct photo from this morning, actually. The brick is kind of a reddish brick. We have a tannish gray is the,
Mr. Dykstra, would you mind putting up the rendering so that we can compare?
that's dangerous.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you can see kind of, it's in the same color palette. We actually used the same stone here. The concrete will match the stucco, and the brick is the same brick.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Simmons mentioned in number 9B on his report, is signage for the facade, the business names. Obviously, we know one of them. For units B and C, you're planning to, once the tenant is known and the designs are determined, you're planning to bring those back to the planning board, right? To the site plan waiver subcommittee?
Yeah, we always bring the signs back to subcommittee.
Okay, just want to make sure that was clear. Okay. I noticed this, talking about other directional signs, when drivers come in off of Market to enter the lot. The sign, how will the drivers know to go left if they're not going into the drive-through lane? I saw a sign that said drive-through pickups. Is there a way to more clearly designate why someone would go left when you're coming off Market?
I think it'll be fairly intuitive when you pull in through here to go left. And we're typically use these for employee parking in the back. So most likely there won't be spaces available over there. So I think logically you would make a left.
Okay, so when you're saying the employees, that would be to the right as you're heading towards the drive-through lane?
Yes, correct. They're kind of the farthest away from any of the doors. So it's natural to put employees
Okay.
there.
So what will a driver see when they first come in off, for the first time going here, when they come off Market? What will be in front of them?
I would assume they're going to pull in North Village. So they'll be driving by the front facade where they'll see all the entrance doors. So they'll pull into Market and they'll make another left, and logically you would go to the entrance doors. And
Okay,
there's a sign that says drive through this way. So
okay.
I think you can oversign things. So I wouldn't recommend a sign saying, I just think it wouldn't serve any real purpose.
Okay, so any pickups or seating would be to the left, but that'll be intuitive?
Yes.
The police traffic engineer, Corporal Morris, issued another report. Would you like to, I'd like you to actually address that and testify your perspective on that.
My perspective is it's a service entrance only. It'll probably get a couple vehicles a day, and I don't see a safety concern there.
Can you expand upon that? Because I believe that the concerns are broader than just what you described about that one service entrance.
Yeah, Mr. Blumetti, I would think that your engineer could comment on that as well.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm asking if you'd like to testify on it.
Okay, he did.
That was it?
Yeah,
That's all there is to say
yes.
in response to the report about this perhaps causing traffic safety concerns and
Yes,
public safety
this
concerns?
was discussed extensively at the first hearing. You heard Mr. Dykstra's position that there's no traffic safety hazard, and you can certainly question your own engineer.
I'm not asking him on the report from last year. I'm asking
It's
him
the
on the
same
new
report.
report. No, it's not. This is
It's
dated
the same concerns.
8/14/2024.
It's the same concerns
2024.
repeated.
That's why I asked if he has a comment on it or a concern. That's your testimony on this?
I'm not concerned that it's a safety issue, correct?
Is there, Mr. Dykstra, is there anything, there's been a change to that throat, so to speak, in through Chelsea, and also the addition of the speed table and addition of signage. Does that address the concerns at all? I mean, how are some of the changes affecting that concern?
I think the main way to deal with it is that there's very limited traffic coming through there, number one. And the speed table definitely slows people down coming through there. You can't drive through there quickly. And so those two together definitely limit any traffic concern. Also, the site is designed per the standards that the township has in their ordinances, so it's compliant.
Thank you. Landscaping, I'd like to review one or two items that Mr. Simmons mentioned. I wasn't clear on how it was resolved. I believe 10B is in the plans. Is that correct? So replacing the smaller trees around the parking lot with shade trees?
Yes, they've been added.
Okay, thank you. 10A, can you describe, I wasn't following your response to that.
So that ordinance is intended for a large parking lot. There's no, it's one lane of parking, so you don't have any internal areas. So in order to create an internal area in this parking lot, you'd have to create a boulevard in effect. So it's not what I think this ordinance speaks to, like this large scale parking like at ShopRite. They want 5% of that area to have trees and things in it to break it up. In this case, there is no internal area.
The code does specify parking lots with 20 or more spaces. So I think they are, when this was written, apparently they were envisioning lots of 20 and more, so not enormous ones like the main ShopRite lot.
Yeah, but I mean, we have all of the areas that are like corners, peninsulas. I mean, if you count those areas as part of the parking lot, then it would be the 5%. But since they're not internal to the parking lot, it's, I mean, the only way to meet that requirement, I guess that all the landscaping in here is internal, theoretically, because it's inside. But typically, a one-lane parking lot, there's no internal area.
Okay, I think to Ms. Hermod's question earlier, you agreed to put plantings along the drive-through lane against the building that were there originally? Okay.
Correct.
And last one on landscaping, so number C, letter C, about the shrub plantings. Again, can you clarify that, your answer to that? I know it's supposed to be a 10-foot wide buffer, and the Mr. Simmons report
Yes.
was stating that should be something done between the parking lot and North Village.
Yeah, so along that area, we have, we basically have a 10-foot area between our property line and our curb. And in that area, we have shade trees and shrubs. But it's not a buffer this is the front of the building when you're looking at it from the street. So because the parking lot is in front of the building, you would block the visibility of the tenants. And that's their only marketing, that's their only signage is on the building. So you need some visibility.
Can you describe, I understand what large trees would block the signage. Can you describe what will be there according to this? Will it be mid-sized trees? Will it be shrubs? What will be there?
We have large trees that'll be up high, and then we have shrubs low. So you'll see the gap between, but it's not a buffer like on the Starbucks side, for instance, you're looking at the back of the building. So there it made a lot of sense to buffer it because you're not looking at what's effectively their only option to advertise their business.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's all I have for now.
Okay. Joan?
Right, I don't really have any questions, other than when you're considering trees, to just make sure that the root system isn't going to start to infiltrate underground and pop up the concrete.
Yeah, we deal with that. We deal with that issue. We specify specific trees for specific areas, and
All right.
and we do consider that when we're
you.
specifying them.
That's all.
I don't have anything. Okay. I do have a few questions. So in the outdoor seating area, we had discussed during the mediation that there would be plantings in that space as well. Can you describe how you remedied that a little bit?
We created the landscaping all the way around the perimeter. I know we mentioned that could potentially add some like potted plants or something, and we can certainly do that.
Okay. So what type of plantings are proposed in that area?
They're all shrubs, so low, so you'll see the fence, you'll see the seating area, but it'll be a green space as opposed to a concrete space that it was. And I know when we were talking about it, it was because we were concerned about it being this concrete island.
Right.
And I think we've addressed that by creating the landscaping all the way around the perimeter.
Okay, thank you. Also, during that conversation, we did discuss additional wayfaring signs for the drive-through, and that was agreed. But I believe, based on what I just heard, that you were saying that you didn't think they were necessary.
No.
Can we expand on that a little bit?
We do have the wayfinding signs for the drive-through. I would say he was looking for one going to the front door.
Okay, I didn't understand the differentiation. Okay, and last question, or last statement, really, for you at this point, is, we had also talked about anything, should this application be approved this evening, that anything that we may have missed during the course of this hearing that was previously agreed in the last hearing would also be agreed for this hearing? Are you still?
That was the intent,
Okay,
yes.
so, and my last question overall is for Mr. Simmons. Mr. Simmons, based on the issues concerning the traffic and the obvious concern that we still have regarding the Officer Morse's report, can you please expand on whether or not you see any difficulties with how the layout has been proposed and whether or not that we should still be concerned?
Certainly. Let me just start by saying Corporal Morris reviews all the site plans that come before the board and does a very good job. And if he sees something that's of a concern, he flags it and brings it to the board attention so we can look at it further. He also has extensive background information on accident analysis and what have you, not necessarily for this location, but in general, that he can bring another perspective to the table. Having said that, between looking at the site plan and listening to the testimony that we've heard here live tonight and at the previous hearing, I think there's several items that help mitigate the concerns about the service entrance coming through the Chelsea into this particular site. Number one, the limits of the easement where a service vehicle is supposed to enter the site is limited to less than 100 feet, I believe, substantially less than 100 feet going into the Chelsea site before they have to make a 90-degree right turn and go towards the common property line between Chelsea and the ONV site. The significance of that is once a vehicle, a delivery truck, slows down to make that right, they're going at a slower speed, and then they've got to get even slower to make that 90-degree turn. Once they make that 90-degree turn, they're going to be alerted, especially with the signage and the speed table, the first time they go through. And if it's consistently the same driver or same company, they're going to know after the first time across the speed table that, that they've got to slow down for that. So that's further deterrence for somebody speeding coming into the site. Number four, when they get to the common property line area, there is the drive-through coming through for the pickup window, but there's nothing that I'm aware of that's going to block the sight distance from a delivery vehicle looking to the left to see a vehicle coming in towards where they're driving. So that's a safety plus. Number five, I think another thing that Mr. Dykstra just brought up is the fact that those delivery vehicles, for all intents and purposes, at this point would be coming in the morning hours before the normal rush of traffic for lunch or dinner comes into play. So there's not that much interaction. Number six, you've got a relatively low number of vehicles, one or two, I think Mr. Dykstra testified to, which sounds about right as far as deliveries to a restaurant this size. And number seven, when they go to leave the site, if you recall, when they make the left and go out towards the entrance, or excuse me, the exit for the site, they've widened out the aisle to 28 feet. The normal required aisle width is 24 feet. They've taken 2 feet off of the parking space depth on each side to get a wider aisle, which helps larger vehicles negotiate within that aisle width. So for those reasons, while I appreciate his concerns, I think from an engineering, geometric, and the items that I just described, I think it is basically a safe situation. The one thing I wanted to mention while I'm thinking about it also, as far as additional waivers were concerned, I leave this to Mr. Brady if he thinks it's a waiver, but I think I should bring it up. The normal parking space size for Sparta Township is 180 square feet, which is 9 by 20. That's 180. As I just mentioned, they chose to widen out the aisle from 24 to 28 feet by taking 2 feet off each parking space. And instead of 9 by 20, they're 9 by 18. Now, from a practical standpoint, when you take 20, 20, and the aisle width of 24 in a standard layout, that's 64 feet. They still have the 64 feet from curb line to curb line, but they've apportioned it differently to give a wider aisle width in order to help the vehicles negotiate out of the site. Technically, that may be a waiver that has to be noted in any decision the board makes, but I just wanted to point that out in addition as well.
I know we had requested that waiver last time, and I don't remember how we left it. That's the only thing I know. Because we could either extend them to the 20 and have the 24. So I know when I said I would agree to whatever we agreed to last time, we'd still prefer the waiver. So if we had agreed to that last time, I think it's a better design with the 28. So just want to put that out there.
Right, I know that that was something that we agreed, that we discussed extensively at that meeting. But I leave it to the experts to make a determination as to whether or not the waiver is required.
Okay.
Anything else, Celeste?
I think Mr.
so-
Simmons was about to say something.
Just getting back, this is where my CDL license comes into play. And again, with the additional width of the aisle to negotiate a large truck, you're basically facing the same situation because the parked vehicles are in all likelihood going to pull right up to the curb anyway. So I think giving the waiver, since the overall width is still 64, I think my recommendation is I don't have a problem with the waiver.
Thank you. I'm good.
Okay. All right, most of the questions I had have been asked or answered already. The one question I do have, just to make sure. So when I look at the three suites, so the first one suite is going to be Chipotle restaurant, and the other two, I believe, are retail. So the other two, and from a parking perspective, they'll be retail, and they're not going to be restaurants with table service, and that could change the potential parking scheme?
Yes, what they will be determined when we actually get a tenant, and they have to meet the parking requirements. So it's very unlikely it would be any restaurant.
Okay,
Just
so
because-
if it were a restaurant, would you come back and we could discuss that from a parking perspective, where the standard would be a little different and could shape the overall?
Yeah, I
Parking
expect
plan.
it'll probably be a professional type space
Okay, yeah,
or
yeah,
a
right.
retail.
Okay, all right.
I had a note, Ron, from the old hearing that as tenants came in, there would be some sort of calculation provided to the zoning officer.
Okay.
So if the calculation then results in a problem, they'd have to come back and go before the board.
Okay,
And that's the same with every application.
yep. Okay, that's my questions. So with that, why don't we open it up to the public? If anyone from the public has any questions relative, for the applicant relative to the testimony, please feel free to come forward, state your name, and Mr. Brady will swear you in.
To just take questions or allow questions and testimony all kind of mixed together?
Because we have to do both, so is there any more testimony that you'll be giving tonight? Okay, yeah, so why don't we combine them? Good suggestion, thank you.
Absolutely. No problem.
Raise your right hand.
Oh, certainly.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but.
Yes.
State your name, please, spell your last name, and provide an address. And since I'm taking notes, do it slow enough.
You're going to need a big piece of paper for my
Okay.
last name. My name is Richard Rohrbacher, Rohrbacher.
And address.
172 Demarest Road. I don't have testimony, I just have a couple of questions and comments. We keep talking about emergency vehicles and service vehicles using the access from the assisted living facility into the Chipotle parking lot. And we totally and blithely seem to ignore the propensity for civilians, non-service people, non-EMTs or emergency vehicle operators to take shortcuts if they think it will save them some time and they won't be stuck in traffic. What is to prohibit or exclude such civilian vehicles from accessing that service road?
There's just signage there that could
And what do we know about signage? People will blow it off if there is no stick to enforce it.
agreed.
I can speak very clearly to that. There are signs just before Wilson Drive and just off of Route 15 on Demarest Road that say trucks over 5 tons prohibited. Well, guess what? We get trucks coming down that street that are not making local deliveries, that are definitely over 5 tons driving through. And the answer I got was, oh, well, if there happens to be a police officer there who can stop the offending vehicle, they can then write a ticket. Well, I'm still waiting for that to happen. I thought my second question is more directed to you, Mr. Dykstra. I thought there were supposed to be some apartments above the commercial floor. Has that been removed?
Yes, that was the prior application. That has been amended.
Oh, okay, all right. I thought it had, but I just wanted to make sure that I was remembering things correctly. My memory is not nearly as good as it used to be. That concludes my testimony at this point, my questions at this point.
Thank you.
solemnly swear or affirm testimony about giving the truth and nothing but
I swear, Vivian Perlmutter, Perlmutterer, 5 Morgan Drive, Sparta, New Jersey.
say, Vivian.
Vivian, Vivian. I wanted to know from Mr. Dykstra, is the plan to have waitress service out to the outdoor eating area? Or is it people buy their food, take it out, and eat at the tables?
People buy it at the service desk and they bring it outside.
Will Chipotle have someone supervising that the trash goes into the trash cans when they finish? I assume that the food will be on disposables, this plastic, whatever, plates, paper plates, whatever. And then there'll be trash cans there for the people. And will they have someone supervising to make sure that everything is cleared off and that it's neat and it doesn't become a hazard, or shall I say a site hazard and a rat a magnet? And it's of concern to me.
I appreciate the concern. Chipotle is a pretty high-end, fast casual restaurant. They do maintain their spaces very well.
Because I got onto, just to let everyone know, if you look on the web and you search Chipotle in Newton, and you look at the reviews and you start reading down, they are constantly in need of help. They don't have adequate help. People are complaining that they make orders and they're not filled correctly. There was a lot of griping, and it isn't on every restaurant, but it was on Chipotle in Newton. And I just hope that it will be different here. And I just want to know what the mechanism will be to make sure that the trash doesn't pile up, because we don't have that in the ShopRite Center. If you look around, ShopRite doesn't have people eating outside. No, none of the other stores have people outside eating. I love outside eating, but in order to do it, you can't assume that people will be neat. They will finish eating and they will walk away. The stuff will be on the table. And if somebody isn't there making sure that it gets cleaned up, you're going to have trouble. Thank you.
Mr. Brady, since this is like both a question and testimony, if some statements are false information, are we expected to have it corrected for the record or no?
Mr. Brady?
Microphone is up there.
Dave, the one right in front,
Yeah,
that
does the one
should
on the
work.
table work?
It doesn't work?
It doesn't?
Work.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
Bill, would you repeat that question?
Looks like it's
I think before we started public comment, we said it was going to be a mix of both questions and testimony.
Well, yeah, what we're doing is, we're doing both for a
Right,
matter,
so
because
if
the applicant is finished with their testimony, so we might as well go into both as a matter of efficiency.
Right, but if there's something that's said on the record that's not correct or not factual, are we,
Meaning by the public,
yeah.
you can certainly comment on it. You
But we're
can-
not under an obligation to correct it.
You're not under an obligation to correct it, no.
Thanks.
Okay.
I'm afraid to touch it. The last time I touched it, it fell.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
Yes.
And your name and your last name, and please, your name and your address, and please spell your last.
Like Mr. Rohrabacher, you're probably going to need a bigger notebook. Kathy Ebenkhausen, E-B-B-I-N.
Start over, I'm not keeping up.
E-B-B-I-N-K-H-U-Y-S-E-N. Scudder's Road. Scudder's Road, Sparta. Okay, I have some questions. A statement was, and some testimony. A statement was made earlier stating that the aesthetic was the main, seemingly that the aesthetic was the main issue of the building, or maybe the proposal. To me, the aesthetic was never the main issue of this proposal. As I recall, it was the traffic and what was discussed previously as Corporal Morris's previous report, and also his new report, which I admit I have not been able to see. Not sure if that's available to the public. Maybe someone can help me with that. I did look at today's documents available to the public, and I did not see it. So I'm going to go off of memory of what I remember the previous report to have stated by Corporal Morris, and the issue, as I recall, was around traffic, ingress and egress. So my first question is the egress and ingress solely still from North Village Boulevard? Because I cannot see everything there. I apologize. I would hope you could repeat that or help me explain what's there, please.
The entrance is from Market Street, which is the road that's perpendicular to North Village. You come down North Village, make a left, and then a left into the facility.
Okay, so only off of Market Street, not from North Village Boulevard?
There's no entrance on North Village Boulevard.
Okay. So knowing that intersection very well, the amount of cars, as previously I've stated in previous hearings, is the window of opportunity for cars to back up at the Route 15 and North Village intersection is very short. I think there's about 5 cars when leaving North Village at most that can queue at the light, which causes traffic to back up when trying to turn left out of there. Now, I have a picture today with me of which I am looking at. It shows the intersection of North Village Boulevard and Market Street. So before I've even made the left to North Village Boulevard, I see in front of me a queue of cars waiting for the light to turn green on Route 15. Now, what I see here is it causes a backup into the intersection of North Village Boulevard and the intersection of Market Street, which ends up into the main parking lot. So now, this picture is taken from with the intention to exit from the main parking lot and make a left onto North Village and wait for the light to leave North Village. In order to do so, I see in my picture 2 cars queued up to make a right onto North Village Boulevard on Market Street. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars already queued up and into the intersection of Market and North Village. Now, this is on a weekend, so granted it might be a time that is more busy, but the reason I raise this is because this intersection is already a mess. And I had testified to this in previous hearings. And it stands to reason, if we're adding more businesses to this location, this will further exacerbate this current mess. Okay? In the time which the previous hearing for this location has occurred, and today, our chief of police has entered a report or created a report that states that the area in front of North Village is high accident in terms of anything else in our town. The issue, as I recall Corporal Morris mentioning, was not around speeding, although that was the discussion today with speed mitigation bumps to cause traffic to be slower. It's around congestion. This intersection is already congested, and therefore, if you add more businesses to this, I don't see how this issue has been mitigated with what is being presented today. That's all I have for submission to the board. Thank you.
Anybody else?
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Jennifer Derricks, Tap into Sparta. Derricks, Dericks. Just to give a little more information to what Kathy Ebbinghauser was just saying, the chief's report on crash data does include 67 accidents in the parking lot of North Village, 18 at that intersection. It does include an increasing number of accidents along Route 15 in this strip known as Lafayette Road. They call it Lafayette Road, between the railroad tracks and the light at White Lake, starting at 79 accidents in 21, 89 in 22, 106 in 23, and 41 in just the first 5.5 months of 24. 315 crashes total on that section of road in the 4 years, and the number is growing. To Kathy's point, it is relative to congestion. And I did want to ask, she already asked, but we were not able to access the documents for this application. We weren't able to see the plans. We weren't able to see Corporal Morris's updated letter, which was in fact the major rationale for the discussion at the last hearing, the last time this was brought to you.
Anand Sparta.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. So we're back, the same application. With all due respect to the applicant, it's a permitted use. He's allowed to build it. The issue is, respectfully, safety. And the applicant has a fair point. He said, Mr. Simmons, do you think it's safe? That was his question. His answer was yes. In certain technical issues of law and planning and zoning, you absolutely need the advice of a professional like Mr. Simmons to opine on that, and you should consider it. Here, we have a situation, respectfully, My daughters don't like me standing up here. They want this Chipotle. They don't like getting DoorDash from Newton. But I confess, my wife and I go to the Starbucks every day in the morning. That's a problem. It is inherently dangerous when you're coming out of the Starbucks. You can take a left or a right. We don't need an engineer to tell us, respectfully, why the ingress and egress, when you're adding an additional layer of traffic, it's just honest. It's not that because I oppose development per se, I don't. But if you don't need an engineer, and Mr. Brady said last time, it's advice that you can reject, but your loyalty is to defend the quality of life. Quality of life, I understand there's standards, legal, etc., but quality of life comes down to traffic and congestion. And this is what we're dealing with here. This is the last piece on North Village. And I respect the property owner being able to develop. But what's more important, the rights of that property owner versus the safety of the ingress and the egress? With all the respect, I don't want, Owen and John to think I'm just here with a thorn in the side. Nobody wants that. I'm telling you respectfully, if you observe, if you've driven that, right? I respectfully disagree with Dave. None of the changes, and in fairness to them, in fairness, there's nothing they can do to change it. It's the intersection. It's a four-way intersection. I almost can't even ask them to do anything else. You can't expect them to do anything else. But I honestly am worried if you're distracted for a second, you come out of the Starbucks, you go left, and you gotta go left to right. All the time, people, in the second entrance, further down by the Babuca's Mexican, right? Babuca. It's the same thing. People don't know. They're creeping out, left, right. And it's inherently dangerous. And we have Corporal Morris's report. We have conflicting reports. Of course, applicant's going to say it's safe. It's not even a fair question to ask Mr. Dykstra, do you think it's safe? Of course he's going to say it's safe. Why would he say it's not safe? He wouldn't be here. He's a professional engineer. I respect him. He wouldn't tell you, members of the board, this is an unsafe intersection. He's counsel by very good counsel. I'm just saying from my heart, it's not tenable. That intersection is not tenable. And guess what? This board has a right, unfettered right, to rule on safety issues, to either reject or take the advice of its engineer. You can't, in your good conscience, with Corporal Morris' report, God hopes that you've all seen that intersection. I submit respectfully. No disrespect to the applicant. No disrespect to development. It's not a safe intersection. Your duty is to defend the safety, the quality of life, which is tied into a legal standard, by the way, of ingress and egress, the safety of ingress and egress. It's all tied in. I implore you, please. It's not personal. It's your duty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dash. Anybody else?
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name, spell your last name slowly so I can get it.
Sure. Another tough one. My name is Paul, and the last name is Steinhilb, Steinhilb. My address is 16 Sierra Place. So Sierra Place is the road that when I go right up to the end, I see the back of the Chelsea, and then there's Market Street right there. On my street are about 20 children that live there. What I see is because I'm retired, so I'm home all day, and I walk that area at least 3 times a day throughout there. And what I see is coming up my road, probably about 2/3 of the people are speeding. And the reason they're doing that is they're cutting through when they come off White Lake Road to go to the Chelsea, and they come up my street to get there, which I would assume they would also do if they're going to go to Chipotle there on Market Street as well. And I do walk that spot over by the Starbucks that was just talked about. And there are times when I cringe because I see people inching out and somebody flying like they're still driving on Route 15 down that northern route down that way. I end up many times, because it's such a busy intersection, having to walk down further and try to cross over by the playground to walk around the facility. So in my mind, it's already a lot of traffic in that area. It's a very, very dangerous area. And also, the other thing about Market Street, there's many times, as somebody was saying, when I get to that stop sign to make the right to the light, I have to wait. And when I come in from Route 15, sometimes to make the left to go onto Market, I have my own turning lane. Not always, because the people who are waiting to get through that light are in the middle of it, and I can't make the left. Or there's people that are just stopped in the middle of the intersection because they don't want to be left out. And it's a burden. It's a burden right now. So that's my testimony. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other members of the public wish to question or comment? Okay, so seeing none, I guess we'll bring it back for a motion. Mr. Brady, could you help us with the motion, please?
Could I have a point of order first, please? Since this is a hearing where the public was required to participate, and they did not have access to the applications, is it a viable decision? That
I believe it is because
Mr. Brady?
I don't think the access, usually people say it loud enough. I think it is because I suspect, maybe I should ask, that the access that we're talking about is online access. And while that's provided as a convenience by many municipalities, it's not required. The access that's really required is if you submit an Oprah or you come in person or something like that, that it's available at the municipal building to be looked at. Not that necessarily it's available online. People have become accustomed to that, but I don't think that's required. If it's not available for some reason, through some electronic glitch, whatever it may be, it's the available at the municipal building. The notice which typically says, I'm not going to paw through to find the notice, available for inspection at the office of the board secretary between the hours of 8:30 and 4, whatever it may be. Okay.
Thank you.
So we're at the position now, I guess, where the board goes into its typical deliberations. If someone, typical deliberations, talk about what the issues are. If you're satisfied with them, someone can make a motion to approve or deny. If there is a motion to approve, then I have a bunch of things that I've starred as being potential conditions out of Dave's report, or things that were represented by Mr. Dykstra or asked of Mr. Dykstra, and he said, fine, we'll do that. But I think the first step is to discuss this and then somebody step forward and make a motion, unless someone just wants to make a motion right now.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Motion for?
Approval.
Okay. Then if we're going to do that, Bill, I'll go through, as is my practice with boards, and outline the things that I have found as being conditions here that we discussed.
Do we need a second?
I think before we have a second, I'll go through the conditions, then we'll second it. Because that way we know exactly what we're seconding and voting on.
Thank you.
Bear with me a little bit because I've got a lot of them. I would put in that they've made a representation that they'll, I'm going to use the word match, but I'm going to find a better word than that for Mr. Dykstra's sake, the colors on Chipotle. Because any batch of bricks or any batch of stone is not going to match exactly, but I think the word was the same color palette or something of that. So I would put that as a condition. They're going to
Brady,
provide.
excuse me, you mean as Starbucks, correct?
Starbucks, did I say? Yeah, okay.
Chipotle.
I apologize. They're going to provide some details to Dave on the latest Chipotle I'm calling it chair/table design and details. The fixtures are going to be, I think Mr. Dykstra said, in the 3,500 to 4,000 Kelvin.
4,000.
4,000, okay. And they're going to dim to 50% an hour after closing. And I think he indicated further, we'll find it that the lights along Market Street will actually be turned off at that time. Fixtures will be downward facing. It's going to be added shrubs or landscaping at the rear of the building. I think it's in that area between the drive-through lane and the building itself. Outdoor dining, they'll meet all the conditions to make it a permitted use. They're going to be used thermoplastic paint on the crosswalk. This one we already covered. I had looked quickly through my notes from the old hearing. We didn't address these, but I don't think there's any dispute about them. There's no order board here. It's all online or call-in or something of that nature. And I see Mr. Dykstra shaking his head up and down, so for the record, he's agreeing. I had a note from the old hearing talking about lights, that when the building lights go off, the signs go off too. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay. Note that will come back for tenant signage for approval. I'm not sure under the Sparta ordinance whether that is something that goes through zoning, if it's compliant, or has to come here for a minor site plan review, but whatever the process is, they'll comply with that. Similar, as other tenants come in, because they don't know the tenants for the other two, there'll be some calculations submitted to the zoning department on what that means to the parking at the site. If it means that there's some issue or variance, because right now they're compliant, they got to come back for a variance. And then I went through, as they went through Dave's report of August 14th, Dave had things that are plan-related, adding books and pages onto the plans for the easements, needing an easement for that fire hydrant that encroaches. Did you get, Dave, your 3A striping and signage of the speed table? Did that get provided, or is that still to be provided?
That is either to be provided or to be confirmed on the plan.
Okay. So we would do that, 3A in his report. On 4C, there's areas discrepancy. I think Mr. Dykstra said that's just some miscalculation. That'll get straightened out. 5A, you've got the discrepancy between RCCP and HDPE. That'll get straightened out. 5B and C are calculations of storm to confirm the pipes all will take the roof drains, and the stormwater operation manual, which is now basically a state law that you have to record that. Dave, on six, do you still need the details on the lights, or has that been provided?
To be provided.
To be provided, that'll be provided. 7A with regard to flow and water mains and consulting with the water utility will be a condition. Same for 7B or 8B, which is confirming the size of the laterals. And then there's a waiver requested for the interior parking lot landscaping. That's not a condition, but while I'm looking down notes, the board, if the motion is to approve, Bill, that would include that waiver. Okay? And the motion would also include the waiver. I think Dave recommended the waiver for the depth of the parking spaces. It'll be 18 feet rather than, or 20 feet. Okay? So those are conditions and the two waivers that are involved. And I assume your motion is amended to include them.
Motion is to include that, but also Catherine made some points about the lining, the type of lining of the walkways.
Yeah, that was a
That's all.
thermoplastic. I mentioned that.
You did.
Yep.
There's also a mention in the past about native species for the landscaping.
Okay.
We agree to, unless it's inappropriate, there's a couple spots where they won't live very well, so We do native species primarily, but once in a while, in some of these environments where it's like the peninsulas, there's trees, a lot of the native species don't make it, so. we pick
Dean,
some-
and I was in one municipality and there was, somebody threw out the word native species, but it turned out in that municipality, it was really non-invasive species that they wanted, and they're not necessarily the same.
Well,
What does
ideally,
Sparta look for?
ideally, it's both, right? Non-invasive
Ideally,
native
it's both,
species.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So for now, we'll go with native at least.
okay,
We'll include both, put and/or.
okay, native and non-invasive species, okay. Okay, so we've got a motion.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Can I ask one question too? Mr. Brady, did you mention, I think you did, about the conditional upon providing the easement that matches Mr. Dykstra's testimony, that there's no restrictions and it's allowable for
Yes.
daily services?
And in fact,
Okay.
Mr. Blumetti, Catherine looked online, found it, and emailed it to me. I'm reading it on my phone just before, so it's on my phone. I'm not going to say that I read it, every word. It looks like it's unrestricted. It's just an ingress and egress easement.
Okay, thank you.
But, yeah, you can provide a copy, please.
Anybody else? Seeing no one, would anybody like to make a motion to second it?
No, I did second.
Jeanette
It's-
said.
Okay, great. All right, based on that, can we have a roll call, please, Ms. Franklin?
Deputy Mayor Dean Blumetti,
No.
Jeanette Burt,
Yes.
Christine Dunbar,
No.
Vice Chairman Bill Enright,
Yes.
Joan Furman,
Abstain.
Justin Canales,
Yes.
Celeste Luciano,
Yes.
Ernie Rackstadt,
Yes.
Mike Sylvester,
Yes.
Chairman Rondé.
Yes.
You know what? We need, a full board is 7 members. So the 7 full members are the ones that vote, and the alternatives don't vote unless we need to go to that. So I've already got 7 noted, but did we include alternatives in that? Should we, alternates in that? Or
The
should we?
only alternate present would be Justin.
That's
Justin
correct.
Canellis, because Brian is not here.
Okay.
That was,
So what we've got to do is, you should just go back and make sure we've only polled the regular members until we run out of them, and then go to the alternates.
Should we read the roll call again, or are we able to?
Well,
I would recommend we read the
One, two,
roll
three,
call again.
okay.
Okay.
To make it clear?
There
Okay.
are 9 regular members. There are 9
9 regular
full
members.
members, not
There are 9
7.
regular members.
How do we have 9 full members? A planning board usually has 7 full members and then alternates.
we have 9
We
and
have
2.
9 regular.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alternates.
Well, either way, the rule that you go through the full members and only go to the alternates when you need to is the rule that we need to follow. And I recently had a board where I frankly was not paying attention to who was voting, and we had some people vote who shouldn't. I don't want that to happen.
Exactly, we agree.
We would just need to exclude the 1 vote from
Right, which would be
Mr.
Justin.
Canales. Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, and that makes the vote 5-2 with 1
Abstention.
abstain.
Right, okay.
Not doing another one?
Correct.
So we're
That
good?
math doesn't add
So
up.
good.
Well, no, we should, that math wasn't correct. We should have,
Risha, please
9 votes.
do the roll.
Yes.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Dean Blumetti,
no.
Jeanette Burt,
Yes.
Christine Dunbar,
No.
Vice Chairman Bill Enright,
Yes.
Joan Furman,
Abstain.
Celeste Luciano,
Yes.
Ernie Rackstadt,
Yes.
Mike Sylvester,
Yes.
Chairman Rondé.
Yes. That gives us 6 yeses, 2 nos, and 1 abstain, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
So the motion is passed.
so we got everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And with that.
Okay, I know we're running short on time, but I'd like to give everyone at least a chance to do a quick stretch of the legs. Why don't we do a quick, I'm going to try to keep it to 5. We want to get out of here as close to 10 as we can, but or those people need to get up and stretch a little bit.
Then they can get set up then during that time.
What's that?
They can get set up during that time.
Yeah, exactly. Good call.
It's in like chain, like it's a nuclear code, so chain your box.
Yeah.
gobble up space
This is
here,
the
so
Pine Cone
all right.
Plaza?
Yeah. They did.
Okay.
That
down. Lastly,
A couple people
Yeah.
talked about, they didn't like the tower they had, so they redid it. I got it.
I thought Matt did it.
Anything they put there will be better, I tell you.
I thought Matt did it.
Oh, that's a nice one there.
Do you need these?
How they doing that? I don't know.
All right, did everybody get this one?
This is an extra. Yep.
Okay, and you got this one?
Okay.
This one? No, I don't think I passed this one.
That's an extra.
Yeah, you got it.
I got it. They're open for business.
I saw these. I saw these online. Yeah, I saw them online too. All right. And I listened to your wonderful questions. And your, and Ernie. Yeah. Oh, I want to see you again like that today.
I probably did.
That's, yeah, it's in the corner of Pine Cone and, yep, Woodport. Yep.
I didn't have this, I didn't
That's it, my man.
I have this. Yeah, I have this.
This is all I have.
Catherine, did you get these?
I have this one.
Your ex was, these are just this online.
She could, yeah, she.
I have it, yeah.
They asked that we just passed them around.
We have them here on the boards. We're just, in case you wanted to see them a little bit closer.
Yeah,
Are these?
They were submitted.
they were.
They were all.
These are not new.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, so
Not-
you don't have
they
to
might
go
not have been
online.
color
I
copies.
saw them today.
Okay.
Yeah, they were in color.
No, there's,
Yeah.
can we give one to maybe Jennifer? Jennifer?
I just
I have
gotta, want to
extra.
give Dean one more second. I got-
And then there's one extra in case you need it for anything.
So what's the new rules here, or your current rules, or not to take testimony after 9 what? 45.
9:45.
Okay.
We mi-
Thank you.
Okay. All right, folks, I think we're back.
Dean, oh, here it comes.
So welcome to the, I say re-welcome to the folks from Pine Cone Plaza. Mr. Brady, I don't think anyone needs to be sworn in. Any concerns there? I believe everybody's sworn in. Anybody need to be re-sworn in?
Oh, they are on.
Yes.
Already sworn in and named under oath, right, Mr. Dunn?
Yes, I understand.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, gentlemen.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Daniel Bankendorf from the law firm of Askin and Hooker, representing the applicant this evening, here on behalf of joint JVP Ventures, Pine Cone Plaza and Hunter's Lane. We were last here before the board on June 26, 2024, for the revitalization and renovation to a building that exists on that corner property. We took all of your comments and your questions and your concerns to heart, and we made some significant changes to the plans based on those requests. We want to go over them tonight and show you that we did consider everything that the board said, and that we did try to make accommodations for all those things. There were also, some of those things included specific numbers for signage and things. We wanted to make sure that we cleared all of that up. There are still some variances needed, but here to provide that testimony is Mr. Dunn from Dykstra Associates. Mr. Dunn?
Before we begin, if I may interrupt for a second, I'd like to know who we're dealing with. You just said JVP Ventures, but when I asked last time, I was given, there was another LLC on the application, and then the applicant said that it was going to be a different one, the third one, and that it would be corrected by this meeting. So who actually owns and who actually is applying?
And for that, I'll have my client provide that testimony.
Yeah, I was last time.
You're still under oath, you understand?
Yes.
Just for the record, repeat your name.
Joe, sorry, I lost my voice this week, so. My name is Joe Paslacqua, 23 Windermere Way in Sparta. So the property was originally purchased in Prior to IPO Properties. This was about 4 years ago, roughly. There was a deed change submitted in the very end of 2023 to 172 Woodport Road LLC, well, 172 Woodport SP LLC. JVP Ventures is my holding company that manages applications, anything that has to do with real estate in my portfolio.
So the property is currently owned under
172 Woodport Road, SP LLC.
Okay.
And we originally, when I started this process about a year and a half ago, roughly, the original property manager that I had that no longer works for me submitted it with the old LLC.
Okay. And are there any other owners in the 172 Westport LLC?
No, I'm this as a single owner.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Passalacqua.
Good evening, Jason Dunn with Dykstra Associates. I'm a professional planner and licensed landscape architect. I provided testimony at the June 27 meeting, and I'd like to review the changes that we've done since that meeting. I'll go through them briefly, and then I'll go into some more detail. The biggest change, I would say, is that we removed a lot of pavement that formerly provided a loop connection from.
Mr. Dunn, before we talk about that exhibit, let's mark it, A201 with today's date, and then tell me what it is, the title block, date of preparation, that sort of thing.
Thank you. I apologize. I jumped ahead of process. The exhibit before the board is A2.01, dated at today's date. The title is Presentation Plan, and it also is dated today. It was prepared by our office, Dykstra Associates. It's one sheet. It shows a color rendering of the site, and also on either side of the color rendering are signage details. So the applicant agreed to remove the loop pavement, which reduced significantly the amount of impervious on the site. We still are over by slightly over, and where we would be asking for a variance of 42.3%. I'll explain how we arrived at that number. The parking, we increased by 1. So we have 51 spaces with the new, with the areas of the building, we would require 58 spaces. The areas of the building include 5 tenants. The proposed fitness studio is 3,549 square feet. Now, I know on our site plan, we did not put the correct number on that.
What is that again then for my notes?
The proposed fitness studio is 3,549. The exterminator is 955. The nail salon is 1,340. The dry cleaner is 1,240 square feet. And on the upper level is the accountant at 941 square feet. The fitness studio parking factor is 1 per 100 square feet. All the others are 1 per 200. Some other changes to the site plan itself. We eliminated some sidewalk in front of the building so that pedestrians would be on the north side of the building, or the side facing Pinecone Lane. They would go underneath a proposed covered roof to reach the other side of the building, the east side of the building along parallel to Woodport Road, so that the existing walk remains to connect these two areas in the entrance to the nail studio. Access from the upper parking lot, since it no longer loops around, will be from 2 existing staircases, concrete staircases, that will be connected with a concrete sidewalk to a new concrete sidewalk system on the south side of the building. So everything is connected by sidewalk for the pedestrians to reach each of the entrances. The western parking lot has only been modified to remove that pavement which connected it to the loop. I believe the history of that loop was for a bank drive-through. It also, I believe, was an auto garage or something. So it was important for those uses, but it is not important for these. We've listened to the board's comments on how to reduce the impervious. It's my opinion and my testimony that this is as reduced as it can be without starting to really impact negatively the functionality of the pedestrian and the vehicular circulation. Some other elements is that we added some landscaping along Hunter's Lane. We added a wall and gate around the existing dumpster area, and we added the hydrant easement along Hunter's Lane and a site triangle easement for Pine Cone Lane and Hunter's Lane, which we will provide descriptions for as long as the shape and size is approved. There was also a change to the architectural plan. There was some discussion at the last meeting and concern about the aesthetics of what I'm calling the stair tower. If I could introduce a new exhibit, I'll show the board what that is. And then I will get to signs. Exhibit A202, dated today, August 21st, 2024, is a color rendering that was based on the new architecturals that were provided to the board in advance of this meeting. It shows a different roof style of the proposed stair tower that is more in keeping, in my opinion, with the rest of the roof angles. And it comes up, I guess you'd say, from four sides to a single point. There's been smaller versions of this provided to the board. So this provides a view from the corner of Pinecone Lane and Woodport Road to the building. I think lastly, unless I missed something, is about the changes to the signs. During the last meeting, there was quite a bit of back and forth about what the freestanding, I'll start with the freestanding sign, about what the freestanding sign would be and what the dimensions would be. The proposed freestanding sign would be 8 feet tall from the ground to the top of the last placard, I'll call it, which is a property identification sign saying 172 Woodport. There are a listing of each placard has a listing of the 5 tenants. So each tenant can be easily identified from Woodport Road and also from Pinecone Lane. The 8-foot does not include the finials and the decorative pieces, which I think we agreed does not need to be counted in the height. The total area of the sign is 24 square feet, where in this zone it allows a maximum of 12 square feet for a freestanding sign. To reiterate my testimony from last time, I think that this is a better planning alternative because this is a multi-use building, and I think in this zone, it did not anticipate many multi-use buildings. 12 square feet, I believe, is appropriate for a 1 or maybe even 2 users, but for 5, which this building has historically been used with multiple tenants, I think it's appropriate. And it's actually, I think, even smaller than the existing sign. So we would request variance relief for that sign size. Second sign modification was for the Pinecone Plaza identification sign on the proposed stair tower. That would be, get to my notes. I think that would be 25 square feet total, as measured from the full length and the full width. The actual real area of that would be less because it's a circular shape, not square. But that would be 8 foot from the grade to the bottom of that sign, and it is in compliance with the facade area of that facade. That's all I have for the changes. To summarize.
Can you bring up the rendering again, Mr. Dunn?
Sure.
All right. And on that rendering, you're going to see signs that are located on the sides of the building. All of those signs are going to be designed to accommodate the code compliance, correct?
Yes. Each of those signs will comply by the length, width, and size based on the facade.
And based on the tenant?
And based on each tenant, yes.
Correct.
Okay.
How high was the dumpster enclosure going to be?
Just a moment. The question is, how high is the dumpster enclosure going to be. We did provide a detail on the new plan set. This is just, what I'm putting up on the board now is what was submitted to the planning board with no other modifications, so this is not a new exhibit. Okay, the wall would be 6-foot high, freestanding wall surrounding 3 sides of the dumpster area.
And it's going to look similar to the building as it's been rendered.
Yes, yes. It will be a 8-inch split face block wall with, I think it's called ephes, which would match the style and color of the building. The gates are proposed to be black vinyl clad aluminum chain link with black vinyl screen slats.
And the rendering is similarly colored to what the building's going to look like, correct? The brick.
Yes, yes, it is. It's a combination of brick and ephes with black trim and black asphalt shingle roof.
I have no further questions for the witness.
Will there be any other testimony tonight? or- Okay. All right, so with that, let's go to our professionals. And I think you've had your memos, so you could run through the memos, that'd be appreciated. Catherine, why don't we start with you this time, if we could?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize that my memo did not include the site plan. That was not shared until, I think, late last week or early this week. The other documents were shared as far as the signage and architectural plan, which is what I reviewed. There were, I'm not sure if Mr. Dunn captured it. There were, I think, significant improvements to the architectural design from the original. Not just the building materials, but the actual design of some of those tower features and things. And I do think that the overall aesthetic improvement is significant to what is there today. I appreciate the additional details on the signage, and I do agree that there's still a variance required for the freestanding sign, and some of the other variances that still exist. Mr. Dunn, can you provide just the updated impervious coverage, just so I have it?
Thank you, Catherine, for bringing that up. I actually left something out of my testimony on the parking. Upon second look of this, Dan brought up a point about the requirement for ADA accessible parking spaces. Since I did add the one parking, since the plan has one extra parking, which brings it to 51 total real spaces, that I think brings the requirement up to 3 ADA accessible parking spaces. So I think it's 2 for every 50, for the first 50 spaces, and then an additional one after 50. Okay, so what I propose to do is add another ADA accessible space to the west side of the building, next to the 2 existing spaces, with a new ADA accessible access aisle would be required for a width of 5 feet, which would basically displace one of the parking spaces in this western parking lot. That could be handled one of a couple ways. We could reduce the parking spaces back to 50, which we would require some relief for parking, further relief from parking, or we could offer to add banked parking to the ends of the existing southern parking space area. In my opinion, I think that 50 spaces are appropriate. We provided testimony about the different uses and the different peak times, and the fact that this is an instructional fitness studio that has instructors, and that wouldn't have a conflict of incoming and outgoing participants. So although I think I was well-meaning to add that extra space, I think it causes a little issue. So if we could keep it to 50 and get the variance from 52, because we get 2 bonus for the EV parking spaces, which would be located, one would be in front of the ADA accessible space, and the one next to it brings us to 53 proposed spaces where 58 are required.
Mr. Dunn, just based on that testimony, in the other parking lot, you can't add the ADA space because of the steps up to the building?
Yeah, so I've referred to this too as a couple different things. The upper parking lot and also the southern parking lot. It's the same lot, and it exists today. We are modifying the one end slightly because of removing the loop driveway. But essentially, you're correct. There's a elevation difference, I would say, of about 5 to 6 feet between the upper level parking area and the sidewalks to the entry of the building.
Okay. So the board understands, Mr. Dunn saying, is that the addition of the extra space essentially has to become handicapped. I think it probably would have functionally, if it was in that upper parking lot, it would have made more sense because there's two separate parking lots, so it would serve another handicap space in that one. But because of the steps there, it can't be a handicap space there because it wouldn't be the actual entryway into the building wouldn't be accessible. So I don't necessarily disagree. It would make the parking variance greater in that it's one less space, but it would be a restricted space anyway if it was provided. So just something to consider for the board. Mr. Dunn, while we're on parking, has the location of the EV spaces been designated on the site plan?
Just give you a moment to check that. I thought they were on here. I got it under control now. Okay. No, they were not labeled on the plan. I apologize for that, but the intent was to have them, one of them to be on the ADA accessible space and another one next to it.
Okay, so the handicap space would be shared with an EV space? It would be a handicap accessible EV space?
One handicap space will be EV.
Okay.
And one space that's not handicapped will be EV. So there'll be
Okay.
two total.
Okay, and the charger will be in the middle of those two spaces, I'm assuming?
It really depends on what the charger, well, these
Oh.
are EV-ready spaces, so the
Okay.
charger hasn't been decided yet.
Okay, understood.
Whether it be a single charger that would serve both parking spaces or two chargers, one for each. But I think the state mandate says that at least one of the EV has to be ADA accessible.
Yes, it's like a 5% requirement, but it ends up having to round up to
I see.
one. As far as the signage, when that does become installed, can you just provide a signage detail for the restricted EV space on the revised site plans? If this
Yes,
is,
we can agree to do that.
thank you.
Sure.
Other than that, I don't know if you actually touched upon it, just reiterated the actual impervious coverage, the now proposed impervious coverage, just confirmed it.
It's almost like a choice.
Oh,
Because if we add the one parking stall, it would increase the impervious just slightly to 42.3% proposed. If we keep it the way it is, and don't add that one stall, it would be 42.1%.
okay, as shown on the site plan
Yes.
presently.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I ask a follow-up question. If it was just 50 spots, what would the impervious surface be? So if it goes down the one, as you mentioned earlier,
If it was 50, it would be 41.9. Because
Okay.
one parking spot is about 0.2%.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's right. He said 42.1.
That's right. That's if we kept the 51 spaces, and Mr. Blumetti is correct. If we remove that 51st space, it reduces it even further to 41.9%. Again, I should know, I know it's in the record, but the existing condition, I think, is about 50.1%. Initially, we were proposing to reduce it to 48 and change. Now we're almost down to your 40,
Close.
almost.
Catherine, what's the minimum requirement for handicap parking with the amount of spaces proposed?
Mr. Dunn had mentioned that it's 2 per 50, and then it goes up to an additional one if you go over 50 spaces.
They're currently we're going,
If they're at 50 spaces, then they have 2 on the plan. If they go to 51, they have to provide a third handicap space, which is the conundrum.
the second one is also being used for EV purposes, correct?
And that's allowed.
Okay, no, I'm just trying to clarify that.
Yep.
Yep.
With the other obvious revision to the plans being the parking variance shown correctly, the total square footage for the gym facility, as well as the total number of parking spaces, I think that I do not have any other further comments at this time.
Just relative to that, if I could just follow, so given the correction of the gym facility square footage, what is the parking requirement in terms of total spaces?
Total spaces for the fitness studio only, or?
No, for the entire site,
For total is 58 spaces.
the 8 spaces,
Yes.
and you get a credit for 2. So right now, so that says you need 56, and the question is, do we go with 50 or 51? Just so
Yes.
I understand it.
Correct.
Okay. Catherine, any other questions?
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dave?
Mr. Chairman and board members, referring to the report dated August 19, 2024, and skipping over to page 3 of that report, some of the numbers in my report changed because of things that Mr. Dunn has explained here tonight. Again, you've got the impervious coverage, which went down from what it was originally, be it depending on whether you decide on that additional space, whether it's going to be 42.1 or 42.3. Under the site plan comments, basically, Mr. Dunn pointed out, and it's on the revised site plan, they are providing a site triangle easement at the intersection of Pinecone Lane and Hunter's Lane, and also an easement for the fire hydrant that extends beyond the right-of-way of Hunter's Lane. Those easements have to be defined by meets and bounds and put in a proper deed form. I noted that the parking lots are in need of resurfacing. I believe they're still proposing to mill and pave those lots.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and Mr. Dunn, based on the revisions to the area of the various tenants, modified the parking requirement ideally to a total of 58. With regards to stormwater, they have shown the roof drains that I requested, and they'll be subject to the review of the construction official. And they have also shown that since they're reducing the impervious coverage, they do not have to provide stormwater mitigation per the township's ordinance. With regards to the lighting system on the 2 parking lots, I just want to verify that the hours of operation are 1 hour after the tenants close, and the lights will be reduced?
Yeah, that's in agreement with the testimony from last time.
Okay. With regards to the utilities, they are on the township water system. They'll have to confirm that with the utility director, Corey Long. With regards to the septic system, it's an existing septic, and one thing I note, by eliminating the pavement in the former drive-through area, they're eliminating pavement over the disposal beds too, I believe. So that's a positive as far as that's concerned. And the applicant will have to get a county approval for the capacity of that septic system. They did add additional landscaping to the plan. You have talked about the signs. They changed substantially from what I had in my report based on the testimony tonight. Will the will the existing building be sprinklered?
No, I don't think it will be. No, it was not.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't here for the original hearing the last time, but for the 4 monitoring wells, just to get it on the record, what is the status of those?
Joe, can you reiterate that, please?
So excuse me, the gentleman that I bought the building from, he maintains it every year. Company comes out, does it. They said they're about 1 year away from the parts per billion to be satisfactory. So they expect 1 to 2 more years of monitoring.
So the prior owner is responsible for that?
Correct. And every year he sends me a report around April.
Okay, and the monitoring wells have to remain?
Correct.
Okay.
May
Yes, sir.
expand on that? So there's a active DEP case, which I guess he sounds like he's going through a natural attenuation.
Correct.
He's trying to sample the wells, not after 2-year period.
Yeah, they've been doing it apparently for the last 10 or 15 years. and they're coming to the end of where they think it's going to be satisfactory, where they won't have to monitor it any longer.
Okay, so are any of those wells, they're surveyed into the property now, are there any of those wells in jeopardy of being removed or?
No, they sit in, yeah, they sit in the front of the building towards the Pinecone Lane
They're
Road.
flush mounted, right?
Correct,
Flush
yes.
mounted.
Yeah, you could walk in and you could see them.
And that site's under, then LSRP oversight, right?
Correct, yes.
Correct. And you don't expect, so the liability with the environmental cleanup staying with the previous owner?
Correct, yeah, that was part of the purchase agreement.
Funding posted, et cetera, is part of your,
Correct. If you guys want to see the last report, we can provide that too. Pretty simple to get. I think we might have already, actually.
all right. Okay, now that satisfies my question, thank you.
Okay. And then just a construction detail for the parking lot foundation, light foundation, which I think they can provide.
Yes, we,
There's a list of all the standard agencies that I believe they'd have to get approval from, and as usual, require an as-built just to verify everything if the board approves the application and the project moves forward. That's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So, what I'd like to do, if we could, so we said we were going to end testimony at 9:45 tonight. I'd like to give a little bit more time, another 15 minutes, if everybody's okay. And then we'll do all the administrative stuff around 10. So if we can, let me bring questions back to the dais, and we'll go from there. So Celeste, can I start with you?
I'm actually good for the moment, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Good, thank you. I just have a question about the upper lot. Oops, sorry. I have a question about the upper lot. That little extra piece that you added on where it used to lead into the curve. That's where you're proposing an additional space? Or is that to help with the turnaround now that the loop is gone?
this,
Yeah,
where it says 35, that's supposed to
I
be.
can't read it, but
I know, but on your plan, I think it says 35 as well. There's supposed to be a line stripe there, so that is a parking space. The ordinance says that any parking space over 40 spaces would need a hammerhead or a bulb turnaround. So I did not include that because it's less than 40 spaces in this lot.
But the last time, there was a concern that people couldn't turn around, that they would go up there, find that there are no spots, and then have to be backing out, which was the argument for the loop. So that little square thing, can you like just round it and make it so that it could be a turnaround?
This piece here?
Yeah,
Yes, I think that we could, that would bring us back up to our 42.1% if we remove the parking space, but yeah. If that's important to the board, I think we could add that. It might require some grading here into the tree line and some, maybe a small wall.
yeah, like everything, it's a balance, right? Are we going
Yeah.
to do safety? Are we going to do impervious
Give and a
coverage? Are we
take.
going to do?
I was just trying, I know,
Spots are we
I know
gonna do?
my testimony was last time about the concern about turning cars. But then
Yeah.
I looked further into the ordinance and it's not required.
Yeah, it's not so much the ordinance as it is really truly what you were saying last time as a safety thing, because you would have to back out not just a couple spots, you'd have to go back out the entire parking lot if there was.
That's right. There is, I would only say two, but there is visibility on this upper lot. It's pretty visible from cars turning in. They would be able to see that this is full.
I actually practiced it today, so
Okay.
I would not want to back out of that.
Okay, wow.
But
Very thorough.
that was just
Great.
my,
Could you, would you mind just confirming and clarifying one more time what the suggestion is? And how it would be implemented? I'm just,
May I? We would add more pavement over the parking space, I mean, not over, but to the east of parking space that's designated as number 35 on our plan. That would allow a car, if it were pull in, and then they find that all the spaces are full, it would allow the car to pull forward and do basically back into this no parking area and then pull out.
okay. Would that be marked no parking?
It would be
Otherwise, it would be
marked
used as a
and then
spot.
striped.
Yeah, I would assume it would be striped.
yeah, you'd
Yeah.
have to
Okay.
start the whole
Yeah.
thing.
You know, and we would have, no, I'm not going to say it. it would have to be enforced by Title 39.
Yeah, yeah.
That was all I had. Thank you.
Thank you for all the changes you've made. They look great. A couple of questions. One is just to clarify the sizes of the signs. I saw somewhere where in one of the reports, and maybe even on the site plan, it said that the freestanding sign was being proposed at 50 square feet. But I think that's overstating it. Because I saw in the diagrams and other reports, it was 24. But the site plan does say 50.
It's 24.
Okay,
24 square feet, in accordance with that site, in accordance with that plan there and the one that was provided to you this evening.
okay, just to clarify, it's
Yeah.
24, the 50 is not
Right.
relevant? Okay,
I think there was a misunderstanding about the bottom 2 feet that existed at the base of the sign that isn't calculated in the square footage, and I think that's what the miscalculation was.
okay,
If the site plan needs to be corrected, we agreed to do that.
Okay.
To be, right.
And then the tower sign, similar question. I believe it might have been overstated somewhere that it was 37.4 square feet, but it's not, correct? It's just
It's
under
25
25?
square feet,
Just under 25?
correct.
Okay.
I think that was on the chart that was
Yeah.
provided at the last hearing. It was closer to like 37 square feet, I think.
Okay,
And it's been revised, I think, on the updated plans to be
Okay.
about 25.
so it's definitely just under 25 is correct? Okay.
Yes.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure it was out there. I also drove around for a second time just more recently. I noticed there are the 3 small freestanding signs that are by the street. They're a couple feet high. They're near the back and the side of the property that read parking 172 Woodport Road. They're just small, simple signs on the property. What are the plans for those signs?
I'm sorry, I'm not certain where they are.
We're going to remove it.
We talked about it. In the last meeting, we said we were going to remove any of the smaller signs.
Okay,
So
okay.
they're going to be irrelevant.
Okay, there were, I think, 3 of them kind of near the entrances
there's
to the
an
parking lots.
entranceway, and then in the back, we're just going to take those down.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Same question for the steps. I noticed, and we mentioned last time too, I think some of the steps are in need of cleaning, repairing, replacing. Are those in the plans as well?
It's not designated on the plans to do that, no. But I don't know if the applicant would agree to some repair if it's required. Are you talking about like chipping and cracks? My recollection is the steps are operable, but including steps.
Redo the whole.
Okay, Joe with his broken voice just said, yes, they do agree to reconstruct the walkway and steps that connect the upper lot to the new proposed sidewalks, which would mean Dave's going to be looking for a stair detail, I think. He's over there nodding, yes.
Okay. The small exterior individual business signs, it was mentioned a little bit earlier.
Yep.
In terms of design, color, illumination, consistency, are you planning to come back to the site plan waiver subcommittee when you have those signs designed out? Or are you stating tonight that they're all going to look identical and they're going to be exactly like that, and you're looking for approval on all those other signs too tonight?
We're going to do them as shown. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, just from my experience with signs in other buildings, I'm going to basically to each tenant, I own the fitness center as well. So the sign that's already there, I don't know if I planned on changing it or not, but all the signs will be consistent across the board, whether they're all black or it's some sort of basic placard. But every single company will have to basically change whatever they have. And we'll just do the basic simple submission for approval on that.
Okay.
But there'll be complete consistency across the board.
Okay, and you'll come back to the subcommittee for that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, last one. I am a little concerned about the visibility of the equipment on the roof, not from the street and not from most angles, but all the vehicles coming northbound on 181 Woodport Road. That's how I came, and I looked over, and you could see all the mechanical equipment. You're elevated coming down that hill before you get to Pinecone. can you address that and talk about that visibility from 181? And then will that be blocked as you're coming down the hill?
Yes, the testimony, I think, from the architect last time was that these mansard roofs, I think is the term, I call them fake roofs, but they will block, they're high enough that it'll block the cars coming northbound on Woodport.
That was the goal.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's right.
What about from the backside, coming down, not going up, coming down? I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's correct. So you're right, this view is coming southbound
Yeah.
on Woodport. But what I'm saying is the treatment of the roof is high enough that it would block it.
Okay.
And you don't know I'm sorry to interject.
No.
The site plans don't give an exact building height. They just note that it's under 35 feet, which is the allowable building height. But it did go up a half story, probably as a result of that half roof, that mansard roof, as a screen. So it's probably like a 6-foot tall addition to give that architectural feature that will then hide anything that's roof mounted, which is, I think, a benefit.
We are trying to do that within the code.
Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you. That's all I have for now. Appreciate it.
All right, I've just got two questions. First one, let me get the easy one out of the way. So the freestanding sign, I think when we spoke last time, all the signs were going to be indirectly lit. None of them were going to be internally lit. The Signorama document still shows that the freestanding sign is internally lit. So can you please clarify what the intent there is?
Lawn lit.
We're gonna,
Provide testimony.
ground lights. Right?
Yeah, ground lit.
Ground lit, okay.
So I apologize for the Signorama not being consistent with our testimony, but it would still be not internally lit. It would
Okay.
be
And none of the building signs are going to be internally lit though, either,
Right.
correct? Okay.
That's right.
Great, thanks.
Are they going to have any lighting? Are they going to have like gooseneck lighting or
The
anything?
wall signs. The wall signs, they're proposed to have down lights
Okay.
showing them.
All right, so the other question I had is related to, actually, it's a good chart to have up right now. So when we talked about removing the drive, my recollection from the last meeting was that it wasn't so much taking the traffic out to the street as it was trying to find the shortest distance between the 2 points. So now what we have is 2 lots. So my concern, and I don't know if we've heard back from Corporal Morris, I think we just got the site plan, haven't had a chance to hear back from, so maybe Mr. Simmons, I'm going to look to you. Is there any concerns with having 2 lots as opposed to having, that are disconnected, except through the street, as opposed to having some type of a path that connects them, so you got on-site traffic circulation between the 2 lots?
I think in this particular case, what Mr. Dunn pointed out before, from the upper lot, the lower lot, you've got direct access to the main access doors of the building. From the upper lot, especially now that the applicant agreed to redo the steps and the sidewalk getting down to the building, you do have 2 possible path corridors to get to the building. So since those pedestrian access points are provided, I think it's satisfactory. And I recall from years ago when I believe one of the initial tenants in this building was Sussex Bank, when it was a bank, and the main purpose that I recall was for that loop part that's been removed was for the drive-through for the bank. So since that doesn't exist and they've got 2 separate means of ingress and egress for the pedestrians to get to the building, I think that'd be satisfactory.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's all I have.
My only question is about the ADA spaces. Is there any, and Catherine, I'm really going to ask you, is there any requirement that it has to be in proximity? Like, for instance, if they were going to go to the nail salon, it would be on the opposite side of the building?
I don't know the code specifically, but it has to do with the closest possible entrance, building entrance. It doesn't have to be like the tenant space, but the handicap space has to be located to the closest building entrance that has an accessible route there as well. So,
Not a distance requirement.
no, it's a closest to a building entrance and closest to an accessible route to a building entrance.
No further questions.
None as well.
I would like to know a little bit more about this. Really doesn't, I'm just curious as to what the issue is with the wells and what pollution factor that is being attenuated, I heard you say. It's been attenuated. There's a time period of 15 years in which it is no longer impacting the groundwater water supply in that area. And what is the pollutant of concern? And if you know, and what caused that pollutant?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not the expert on that. The only thing I can testify to is, one of the questions was, will the wells be modified as part of the proposed site work? And they will not. But if you need some additional information, I don't know how much more you can offer.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that
We'd
there's
be
a
happy
report.
to provide that report.
Would it be okay if you could submit to Mr. Simmons an updated summary from the LSRP of the status of the current remediation?
Certainly.
Because, I mean, quite honestly, it's in everybody's best interest. If that LSRP signs off on, if that cleanup obtains its CEA and it gets its sign off, you get released, they get released. The wells need to be abandoned. I think that's our concern. We don't want to have, any open direct pathway to any groundwater. If the LSRP, if it meets all the regulatory requirements and signs off on it, they'll issue an REO. DEP will sign off and approve, and they've obviously got all the documentation in place already.
That's a lot of acronyms. Thank you.
Make sure you get the REO from the LSRP.
Got it. Written down here.
Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, my only question, you mentioned, if you added that turnaround spot, you're gonna need Title 39 enforcement. So your intention is to request Title 39 enforcement on the parking lot?
Yeah, I think that's in the best interest of Joe. Would you agree with that? Yes.
All right.
I wasn't at the last meeting, but thanks for taking everything into consideration. From that, it looks really nice. It looks like a really nice upgrade to the site, so no questions from me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Before we go to the public, may I ask one more question? The fitness studio at 33,549 square feet, that would require 35 spots. How many, is there a max on the class size, max amount of people that would be enrolled in a class?
So if you remember, this facility was by the post office for about 6 years. I had an approval originally there for one spot for every 200 square feet. And then when we moved here, it kind of carried over. And now we're going back to 1 to 100. So the class sizes are capped at 14 with
Okay.
one instructor. So on the maximum basis size, you're looking at about 18 spots that are probably needed. And there's a window of time in between the classes so they don't overlap, about 15 minutes. So you never have like a class of 14 and then an additional class of 14 all at the same exact time.
All right, that would help when we consider whether or not there should be a waiver.
Okay, any other questions from the dais? With that, let me open up to the public. Anyone from the public have any questions?
Bring your own.
I was just going to suggest that.
Jenny Derricks, go ahead.
Solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but.
Yes, thank you. Jenny Derricks, tap into Sparta, Dericks. I just had a couple of quick questions, but I can speak to having been in that parking lot a lot. I've never seen anybody drive through that secondary loop, the one that goes closest to the building, so I don't think it'll be missed. The purpose of the stair tower, is that to access the HVAC?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, it is.
Currently, there are decals on the window of the fitness center. Are they going to go away or are they going to stay? Okay, because there's an ordinance 14-8.1 that restricts that window covering to 33.3%. that maybe can be looked into?
We'll make sure that it remains within the code.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Currently, there is a huge pine tree on the corner of that closest to Woodport Road, by the upper parking lot. Is that tree going to stay? There's a couple of really big old trees. Is the intention to leave them, or are you going to take them down?
Interchangeable landscaping.
So those big 50 feet pine trees are coming down?
It looks like it's dying, we're gonna remove
If it doesn't look like it's dying, will it stay?
it. Good.
Okay, they're beautiful and hard to replace. And all the trees along that road are being stripped down slowly by slowly. Also, is there an ADA requirement for the second story office? There's a stairway, I see. Is there any requirement that there's alternate access? I think that's it. Thank you. Dave, do you want this back?
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so
I
seeing,
think we're looking for an answer to that question.
Oh.
Is there a requirement for the second floor ADA?
I think at the last meeting, we had a conversation about this, and we would make it a requirement of the accountant who's on the second floor to accommodate any buddy that needs an accommodation
By meeting them.
by meeting them in a different location or walking down and talking to them. But I mean, I personally don't ever go to my accountant's office. Generally, I send them the information, they do their job, they send it back to me, and I probably don't even know what Dave looks like, to be honest with you, but.
Also, it's my understanding that the building code, when you're rehabilitating an existing building, I'm not an architect, not an expert, but my understanding is there's some latitude in there's not a strict compliance, it's a strict practical compliance. So in this case, I don't think you would need that.
And if that tenant should ever change?
I think that the same code would apply in that case.
okay. All right, so it sounds like we're ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion. Second.
What is the motion?
Approve, yeah.
But what are we approving? How many
I'd like to
spots?
hear from Mr. Brady in terms
Yes,
of,
I think we're going to rely on Mr.
Members
Brady to
and that
craft
type
the
of stuff.
motion.
But we haven't talked about whether we're looking at 51, 50, 56, right?
Question mark. I got totally lost in that.
Yeah.
So if you want to, I can go through, excuse me, conditions and all that I've noted, and some will just be clarification. So the first one that I came to is that we have 50 spaces, 51 spaces. That'll, of course, drive some of these impervious coverage, so we have to
Yeah,
make that decision before I go on it.
that's what I was saying. Would you consider amending your motion to, and people may disagree, but to include the turnaround with 50 spaces and 41.9% impervious coverage?
Well, I believe it goes up to 42.1 at that point.
No,
Or
that's
They're
with-
at 42.
That was with 52 spaces. Did I get that wrong? I thought 50 space,
Right, but once you add the
oh, and then you add
turnaround,
the
you go back
turnaround.
up.
Right.
Okay, so,
I mean, before we make that, I mean, I think we got to ask the applicant, by making that modification or change, is that going to be functional for a car to turn around? And does it need to be an extension to the parking lot? Can you put stone or some type of impervious stone, like a pervious type of coverage there to just give a car the ability to make a K-turn and get out of there? I mean, I don't want to think your plan, but I hear the suggestion, but it's going to conflict with your impervious percentages.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we'd like not to have to put that in there. And I think that Mr. Dunn had provided the testimony why we decided not to do that. But if the board, it makes the request, it's something that we would like to accommodate on their behalf. So we would be willing to do the 50 parking spaces with the turnaround. The turnaround would be an impervious surface. We want it all to remain the same, and look the same. And I think it is functional. If you were to pull into that spot and then back up, you could pull out. So I think it makes sense, and we would be willing to add that spot and stripe it for no parking.
How long have you owned this property? And in the 4 years, has that upper parking lot ever been fully at capacity?
No, it's never been close to it.
How many tenants do you have now?
Current tenants, we have the fitness studio, the dry cleaner, the nail salon, and then the accountant. So we currently have 4.
Okay.
I have a lease for an exterminator, and then the gym is going to take additional space. So it'll be 5 total.
Okay.
And the exterminator office is an administrative office, basically. So 3 or 4 people.
Okay. Can I ask Mr. Simmons, actually, do you have an opinion on putting that extra non-parkable spot at the end there? Would it make it a lot easier or simpler for a car to make a turnaround?
Smiling because Mrs. Furman mentioned she pulled in and had to back out. I had the same experience tonight. So quite frankly, I think it would be a good idea to add that.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would amend that to 50 spaces with the addition of that turnaround space.
That
Right.
means.
And an acceptance of the increase.
Remind myself, no, 2 handicap, ADAs. Because you're only-
Correct, because he's only
Right,
50.
Right.
Right.
And still 2 EVs.
One of which is ADA.
And 1 is ADA.
And what is that due to the impervious coverage now? What number are we on? Including the little-
That would be the 42.1.
Yeah, that brings us back up.
42.1 impervious.
May I add something? Just a recommendation. For Mr. Brady, before you start getting into the conditions list, just another condition to consider. And it should have no impact on the applicant agreeing to this or not, but it really is a summation of all the changes need to be shown on the revised plan and be consistent with one another. So the changes not only need to be made, but they need to all be consistent with one another in all these documents. Preferably all on the site plan. I think if they can be on that cover sheet and be concisely added there in addition to the exhibits, just everything needs to be, when it's submitted for reso compliance, if this is approved, needs to be consistent.
Okay. Another condition. Okay, so now I know what we're doing on that. Other conditions, lights reduced 1 hour after business closes, looking at as-built survey at the end. What Catherine just said, correct the site plan with the correct size of the sign. We'll remove the 3 current small signs, or I guess they're in the lawn. I could describe. Reconstruct the existing steps and give Dave stair detail. Right to the individual tenant signs, they'll come back for approval of those on a separate basis. Freestanding sign will be ground lit. Wall signage will be down lights. Looking at Dave's report, there's a site triangle easement that has to be prepared and approved and reported. Same thing for the fire hydrant, it's an easement that needs to be done. Parking lights are gonna, or parking lots will be resurfaced. Is that on the plan stage now?
I think they're, sorry.
Well, if it isn't, I'm gonna put it in as application, that'll make it doubly important. We granted, I guess we're granting a waiver from the loading space requirement? Nobody's really discussed that, or?
I would say if we do, I mean, that's dependent on the current proposed and planned uses not receiving or distributing materials or merchandise. So that restriction should be included in the resolution in case the uses change down the road, right?
Kind of like when you have multiple tenants and you get a parking change. If there's
Mhm.
tenants, so
Yeah.
demonstrate to the zoning officer, we're not changing the.
Right. Yeah.
He said he needs a detail for the parking lot, light foundations, and then, of course, all the miscellaneous approval statements.
Also, a summary letter from the LSRP to submit to Dave's office. And then, I would echo from comment from the public is if there's any attempt to preserve any of the established trees, as best as they can.
Best efforts kind of.
Yeah.
Mike, did you mention Title 39? Is that what you just said? Or no? Okay, so that the applicant will request Title 39 enforcement. That's another one, right?
We making that a condition? I know made that, I made a note saying there was the intention. I didn't know if we we're making a condition.
What's typical, your experience? Okay.
I don't have too many applications, either from a board perspective or from an applicant's perspective, where I've ran into Title.
Yeah.
Maybe on bigger projects.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it just being a recommendation or intention, myself. I believe in the first, earlier on in the hearing, we mentioned about the landscaping and using native non-invasive species. Is that correct? Okay. I'm on a roll, so I can keep going. We also, last time, talked about, and we even voted on the use and the sports center and all of that. And part of the testimony was that it was solely instructor-led. So I think also that needs to go in the resolution too, that if that fitness center or gym changes to still a fitness center or gym, but it's not only instructor-led, that changes the parking requirements and the rest of it, right? And the colors of the siding, trim materials, they'll be consistent or match what you showed us tonight, right, on the display?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Just wanted to confirm.
And that we're approving the variance.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, John, you were saying?
And that we're approving the variance for the sign.
Yeah. And the park, yeah.
Anyone else? So anybody, any other concerns? Or if not, do we need to amend the initial motion and then second, or?
Okay, so just to make it clear, the motion is meant to include all the conditions that we just discussed and all the relief we just discussed.
Okay.
Yes.
There were a number of pre-existing non-conforming variances that existed. If, I don't know, I'm sorry, is it Joan?
Yes.
Joan had a reference to variances. Did you want to list all of those pre-existing non-conforming variances or just?
My approach as the board attorney on pre-existing non-conforming is to try to recite them in the resolution as factual findings, they're there. But since if they're not being generated by this or not being intensified, I don't consider it part of the relief. It already exists.
Okay, just want to double check.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We get a roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Dean Blumetti,
Yes.
Jeanette Burke,
Yes.
Christine Dunbar,
Yes.
Vice Chairman and Bill Enright,
Yes.
Joan Furman,
Yes.
Celeste Luciano,
Yes.
Ernie Rackstaff,
Yes.
Mike Sylvester,
Yes.
Chairman Rondé.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Motion passed.
Congratulations.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good luck and appreciate
Nice
everything
project, guys.
you did.
Yeah. Looks great.
Be an upgrade to the town.
It will.
All right, let's keep going, if we can. So that brings us to, let me find my agenda here. Okay, let's see if we can carry some of the stuff to next week. So, does anyone have any other board business that they'd like to discuss? Okay, so seeing none, we'll move on to updates. I'd like to carry as much of the updates as we can to the next meeting, but if anyone has anything that you feel that you'd like to put on the table today, let's give you a chance. So, Deputy Mayor Blumetti?
Nope, no updates. The meeting, we haven't met since we last met here, and the next council meeting is Tuesday, August 27th.
The only thing I'll mention is that we are working on the open space and recreation plan and we were sent just the other day an update of some mapping that was done, but I haven't had a chance to look at it, but that is in motion for us.
And in terms of the master plan subcommittee, I'll provide an update at the next meeting. Minor site plan?
Update for the next meeting.
Okay, great. Okay, so that leaves us with the approval of minutes and a resolution and open to the public. So, approval of minutes. So we have one set of minutes to approve tonight from June 26, 2024. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from June 26th, 2024.
Okay, and then discussion, and so I'm going to just have discussion. This will be the last time I talk about minutes, I promise. So I still have a concern, you know, when I look at minutes, I'm looking for something short to read. These minutes are 200 pages long. And we get them typically with only a couple of days to review. I think that's too much for us to review. And I'm also concerned that if we get 2 or 3 sets of minutes to approve in the catch-up phase, we're going to have 600 pages or 800 pages. So I'll put that out there in terms of just a concern I have. Not looking to change the motion. I think we just vote on it. So,
Well,
any
to
other
follow
comments?
up on that concern, I absolutely agree with you, but we brought this up to Tom at the last meeting, and he said, because you asked him if a transcriber was an official transcriber, and did we have to really read it all if it's verbatim, and he said no. So I'm not even sure why we're voting if none of us are reading it.
I think we're voting on the first page to make sure the
So if-
summaries are accurate,
Yes,
right?
if
Yeah.
we do the first page, then I think, as long as we all know what we're voting on.
I heard Tom's point of view. I'm going to somewhat disagree with him. I feel an obligation that I have to at least look at it and feel comfortable with, and that's just me personally, so.
Well, if we made the motion that we are approving the summary page, along,
But then I don't know how you do that because the summary page says incorporates everything else.
Is there a way to use AI assistant to shorten that or capture salient points?
The issue is that it's a transcription company. They're
Yeah.
transcribing word for word what is
word.
being said. So it's not a matter of.
But these are recorded meetings, right?
Right, but
And
what
if
they're
you push the AI assistant button, it gives you a pretty, I would say, a really good working document and a summary of all the facts that were stated. I don't know if you all used it. I use it quite a bit. Using
I'm not sure.
technology, but.
I'm not sure if that'd be an allowable use to do it that way. I think it's got to be done by a certified transcriber as opposed to
Right,
the
I think at the end of the day, yeah.
You know, my concern with the transcriptions is there's a lot of things that are said there with an unidentified person who said it. That's a problem for me, so.
I know Joan looked at me, but I'm going to defer to Tom.
Yeah, yeah.
Sounds like there's like a little history and a little process
Yep.
involving here that I'm not really familiar with, and I'm going to leave that to Tim.
So my recommendation is, and again, feel free to disagree, is I think I just wanted to have the discussion, and then we put it to a vote, and either we go forward with it or not. Anybody disagree with that?
Well, I think we'd have to know what we're discussing and what the goal is, right? And what the content would be. I mean, the transcripts have to exist, right? You have to have they have to exist for good. You have to have the resolution. That has to last forever. I think we're talking about the differences, the summary, and do we try to summarize what's in the transcript into a few paragraphs or a few pages?
Right.
I don't know if that's practical. So just given the backload and the township's resources are being used to do minutes and also now paying multiple services to catch up and do all these transcripts. I don't know, because the transcript to me is for the hearing. And then this is kind of describing the summary of the transcript and then other
Right.
matters.
This doesn't even refer to transcripts. So this says minutes. I would think this is what we're approving.
Yeah, I mean, the first one does, the attached transcript.
Yeah.
I think that they do
Oh.
actually, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe we could rework the way we do the minutes and put that underneath at the,
I mean, is it a matter of just putting like a bibliography in terms of, hey, if you want additional details, see
Yeah,
page
something like
whatever?
that.
You know what I mean? Just cite a section?
I think minutes typically, what was motioned, how was it voted on, what was the response? And I want to be able to go to something and say, yep, I know everything's on this page without having to read through 197 pages to say, did we catch everything? I don't want to do that, and I don't think we should be asking the public to be looking at minutes that are 200 pages long. So,
I think I remember some past minutes though, they do show the vote. All right, and on the front page.
Typically, minutes are like a little summary of what went on in terms of like a hearing. Mr. Smith testified, XYZ, Mr. Jones talked about this, motion to approve or motion to deny, or maybe if there, of course, we just had a long set of conditions, but maybe conditions, kind of like the important salient points. Minutes are not meant to be transcripts. Said GP, when I think about transcripts, I think about official transcripts that on prerogative writ cases get filed with the court. Right? And it seems like
Dean,
you've got like a
what's council?
hybrid thing going on, and I don't know, I don't think you're under any pressure to adopt minutes tonight. There's really no deadlines. I would push it off, talk with Tom and come up with a practice that makes sense.
And then, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I mean, just based on the hour, this conversation in and of itself could go on for,
I agree.
Yeah.
you know, so I think that might be best to table it until our next meeting when we might have a little more time.
Let's carry it forward. I mean, I kind of support Ron on that. Obviously, the administrative, I understand the administrative burden, the
Yeah.
administrative lift, the expenses associated with it, but also, making sure that, the public could read it and more kind of I don't know how the town council does it, how we've done it in the past.
Yeah, well, the council is a different animal, right? Because there's not a hearing. It's not a legal hearing. It doesn't go on
You
for
still
that
have to
long.
publish your minutes. for
Yeah,
the
those are
meeting, right?
done by hand, basically. Those are like Word documents. Those are more scripted out.
So, to Celeste's point, does anyone, all in favor of carrying this discussion to the next meeting, say aye?
I
Aye.
actually,
Aye.
okay.
Any opposed? None.
I'm opposed.
Okay.
Yeah, because this one is just really, most of this was carried forward, and it says it here. The only one that was voted on, no, actually, they're all carried forward. So we're not really doing much by saying we're going to spell them out further, because they're all carried forward. So,
I think the consensus was to carry the discussion of minutes forward to the next meeting as opposed to try to approve them tonight.
Okay, that's fine. I will give a gentle warning that we have to be careful what we ask for, because we don't have unlimited resources of people or money. I know we have to get to an ideal that's useful for everyone in the public and us, and for down the road too, that they can all read and understand it. But we can't come out with a recommendation that says we need somebody to sit for half a day or a day doing every single meeting, because there's planning board, there's zoning board, there's environmental commission, there's council. So just as long as we keep that in mind, that we have to balance that.
Maybe at least include the vote, but we can talk about it another
Yeah,
time.
actually, I have seen them with the votes, the last couple, I think, right? This one, there was no vote, so.
All right, so it sounds like, again, so the consensus was to carry this forward, discussion forward to the next meeting and make sure we consider Deputy Mayor Blumetti's concerns as well as part of that discussion. So that then brings us to resolution. So we have a resolution 2024-14, which was for Planning Board Application 24-718, Thor Labs Measurement Systems. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve that resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Deputy Mayor Dean Blumetti,
Abstain.
Jeanette Burke,
Yes.
Christine Dunbar,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Bill Enright,
Yes.
Joan Furman,
Yes.
Celeste Luciano,
Yes.
Ernie Ragsdale,
Yes.
Mike Sylvester,
Yes.
Chairman Rondé.
Yes. All right, so that brings us down to open to the public. What's that?
Sorry, you have to hear from me for a second. This was going to be something I was going to bring up. Thank you for already starting the conversation. I got you, Dave. The minutes are unacceptable. Transcripts are not minutes. You're in violation of OPMA. This is something that I'm going to be bringing up at the town council, Mr. Blumetti. I understand that there is a concern about cost and all of this, but this is not new. We've been having planning board hearings for decades, and somehow we've been able to get our minutes together. That even the last minutes that were approved at the last meeting did not summarize correctly the statements that were made. I'm just going by what I know I said and what was reflected in the minutes. They're not good minutes. I'm sorry, I know Dory is very busy, and so maybe that's not the answer, but there has to be an answer because you're in violation of OPMA. You're not the only ones. Zoning board is in trouble too. And I will be bringing this to the town council. I appreciate that you are bringing this up and you see it's a problem, because it is a problem. Transcripts are not minutes. There is a reason why we have minutes. It's historical. It has historical value. People have to be able to go back and say, why did we make that decision? How did we come to that decision? And without minutes, it's impossible. You cannot expect someone, to your point, Ron, to read through 200, 300, 400 pages of a document that doesn't make any reference or say who said what. So these are not minutes. I appreciate that you're taking this seriously. Thank you.
Your comment.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you, Jamie. Okay, so being that there's no one else from the public, I think we're at a point we can make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor? I'll second, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for the extra time tonight.